Hello and welcome to Science Unscripted. It's Conor here.
And Gabe.
Take it away, Gabe.
Yeah, we got an email from Chuck, and this is the program director at WITT, Zionsville, Indianapolis. This is a pocket of the Midwest that we weren't even aware that our show is transmitted from. There must be radio broadcasters all over this earth who are distributing our content, and we thank you for that. You know?
And also just a big thank you. Saying that now reminds me of, or makes me realize, I guess, that we have spent a lot of time thanking our fans, all of our listeners out there for not just passively enjoying this show, hopefully, but writing in, commenting, even visiting us in one case. And we've kind of forgotten those folks.
Yeah, and all the rebroadcasters, you mean, the CBCs in Canada, the NPRs in the United States, the ABCs down under, all you guys out there who are broadcasting our stuff, thank you very much from Germany.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Chuck writes, isn't the human equivalent of this bullying by youths? That often involves physical violence too. And
you have to get into this.
Right. What he's referring to in the subject of the email was the caning by the chimps. And that was... It's in response to my response to one of the 17 chimps that we saw at the Arnhem Zoo last week, and how he took she took a bamboo cane and for some reason started whipping one of the other chimps in the back. I never saw anything like that in all my time at recess at Lincoln School and at the middle school in Beaver Dam. Never ever with a weapon like that and out of nowhere.
Because you had a recess teacher or recess teachers. We did, and they were the arbiters. They were the referees. They were the judges of who was guilty and needed a timeout and not.
Right. Yeah, that's something that human beings teach to one another at an early age, hopefully, that it is not fair to take a cane and just start whipping your fellow.
No, but I'm with Chuck here. You take the referees out of it. I'm not going to go full Lord of the Flies and say for anyone who understands that literary reference that it'll go full
piggy, right?
Yeah, chaotic barbarism and murder. But if you don't have someone saying, you're getting a 5-minute timeout, sit over there, you're going to the principal's office, you are now home for 3 days because you picked up a potential weapon and hurt someone, I wouldn't be surprised if it's the most powerful or like the early growers who end up dominating hierarchically and whacking people.
I agree that we have that instinct that is in our nature somewhere, but it's also in our nature to teach young kids not to do that, to teach them that it's completely unfair and absurd to use that kind of violence to, I don't know, assert your dominance or show that you're the leader. Mm-hmm. We do it in other ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is, I could go on forever on this. The last thing I'll say on this is then part of the reason that may not happen in a schoolyard without anyone stopping it is that at some point, if you whip enough people, even if they're the smaller ones, if they're 3 or 4 or 5 and they get together and say, hey, this guy keeps hitting us with a cane.
Let's whip him.
Yeah. So some sort of hierarchy or balance will end up I guess, asserting itself, at least for a while. Equilibrium. Another email, this one from Susan, who wrote in to say that the whole first part of the email, she's transfixed by our show consistently, very early in the morning, so early that she probably shouldn't be awake, but she has insomnia. But our show kind of makes that insomnia feel better or more worth it.
Wow.
One of the things she reacted negatively to as part of that interview, and maybe afterwards when we were sort of talking, you went on about how lovely that zoo is. For her, this is the dreaded Z word.
The Z word.
The Z word.
She can't even say it.
Doesn't want to say it, doesn't like the idea, doesn't like the concept of all of these animals in something akin to a human prison, as she views it. And her question specifically was that she just heard the show about monkeys. Of course, it was chimpanzees, is what she means, which I almost turned off because I cannot bear to hear of animals in prison, the Z word, but I listened anyway. How can you be so sure that the monkeys are acting naturally when they're not in their natural environment? Do human prisoners act quote-unquote normal while constrained? I would be more inclined to believe the premise about the monkeys sharing, etc., when studied in their own natural habitat, not a custodial human confine. So I took this email, thank you, Susan, and I forwarded it to the lead researcher, Kirsten, the one that we met up with. Mm-hmm. And before I read her email, just a quick reminder, right? This is about captive chimpanzees. What are these situations where 4 of them sharing a yogurt bowl can cooperatively share best? And the conclusion that we discussed with her is that when the hierarchically powerful individual is sort of not that interested in the whole proceeding, removed from it, apathetic even, that it can work out best for the others to get a bunch of yogurt. Anyway, she writes, I agree that studying chimpanzees in the wild is important, but for this study, a captive setting was more appropriate. Regarding natural environments, we made the decision to present the chips with a situation they had never encountered before, and one that wild chimpanzees will never encounter. The aim was not to reproduce a common, naturally occurring phenomenon, but to use an easily repeatable paradigm that provides reasonably high experimental control in order to investigate the research questions. While there are other benefits to studying animals in the wild, you lose the ability to account for the environment. And she goes on to say, basically, in the second half of the email, that there's no attempt here to generalize this beyond what they did. She's not saying that every chimpanzee in the wild, when presented with a yogurt bowl in this situation, would act this way. This is what happens when chimpanzees, and that, I'm kind of paraphrasing here, that this is just one piece of the puzzle as we seek to understand our closest living relatives.
Well, yeah, and it's just, it wouldn't be possible if they weren't confined to conduct this experiment. There, case closed right there. And again, about that zoo, to refer to what Susan said, it is one of the nicest places I've been to in a long, long time. And I stand by. I mean, you don't know. You can't go into the soul or the mind of an animal and from based on looking at it over the fence whether it's feeling okay. But I think these animals were doing all right.
Right. And last thing I'll say on the subject, we had an interview months back where that I posed that question myself. Is it possible to say that by going to a zoo and looking at animals that you otherwise have only seen in video form, a tiger, how many people have seen an actual tiger in the wild? Not many. How many people have seen a tiger in the zoo? Does that raise my empathy for tigers worldwide? And hence, it provides sort of a worldly global good for those animals, even if, in theory, one animal is taken from the wild and is no longer out in the wild. And the answer is we don't know. There's no evidence to say that makes us all better people. So I just have to leave it there as an unknown.
What do you guys think? Write to us at su@dw.com. We know, you know that we love pretty much everything you guys have to say. And two studies that got a lot of comments from you. There have been follow-ups since on the very same topic by other researchers. And the first one is about Frühjahrsmüdigkeit. Remember when we talked about, what was it? What's the English translation of that?
Spring fatigue.
Spring fatigue, the idea that in the German-speaking world, there's this myth that's accepted by at least half the population that for some reason people are just tired in the spring. Work has been done at Purdue University on whether the change of the clocks, whether that coincides with changes in mood, disruptions in mood. And absolutely. But the way they looked at it was not the way, it wasn't a survey like the case where we spoke to the researcher from Switzerland, Christine Blume, about, she did a longitudinal study, asked people all year long how they're doing, and then wanted to see if there was a change in the spring. These people the researchers in Purdue looked at social media posts around the changes of the clocks and scanned for words that would signal mood disruptions. It exploded in the spring and exploded in the fall. When the clocks change, people absolutely complain of depressive symptoms, but more so in the fall than in the spring. So there is an absolute change, because one of the things that we learned from Christine Blume, the Swiss study, was that there was no change all year long. Remember that when she said no changes in energy?
Your energy level is relatively constant, even if your sleep patterns are altered.
Yes.
And you require, for example, more sleep, or do sleep more in the fall or in the winter. Your energy, when surveyed, when somebody asks you, how are you feeling today? Energetic.
If the 800,000 or so posts that these researchers analyzed are anything to go by, absolutely the change of the clocks results in a mood disruption, but it's worse in the fall. It lasts for longer in the fall than in the spring and the.
That's on the one hand surprising because spring forward, you lose an hour.
You lose the hour. Right?
Fall back, you gain an hour. Hence, you would think that that's better than losing the hour. On the other hand, it's
darker, maybe. In the fall, you lose the hour of light.
It depends. Here in Germany, we do it at different times than, for example, in North America. So it really depends on where you are and how. There's no one answer for everywhere in terms of how much darker or lighter it is, but that might have something to do with it. But yeah, that hits people.
Yeah,
that change in time.
But it is interesting for two studies to be done on a very similar topic and wildly different results. And the other study that we covered a couple of months back, we went to a supermarket in Cologne, a simulated supermarket.
You have your city wrong, my man.
Was it in Cologne?
No.
Was it in Bonn?
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I screwed that up. It wasn't in Cologne, it was in Bonn. And we learned from Dominic about where food is placed. But they didn't have any results yet. Remember, it's right at the infancy, and he's really excited about this data to come in. At the University of London and University of Southampton, they have absolutely done this experiment from 2018 to 2022. So March 2018 to April 2022. They looked at what happens when you put fruit and vegetable right at the entrance of the supermarket. And what happened?
Oh, the entrance, not
right
the
at
exit.
The entrance,
not the exit when you're going out.
The first thing you see is fruit and vegetable. What happens?
Bananas. Isn't that kind of how they? Well, at least my supermarket does it. But go on.
They don't do it at these particular, or they weren't doing it, and then they changed it. Put the fruit and veg right up front. Per store per week, there were 2,525 more purchases of fruit and vegetables on top of the purchases that would have been made anyways. And I looked at the average of that particular size of supermarket in that particular part of the world, between 7,000 and 13,500 purchases all week. So this is a significant increase in fruit and veg purchases when you put it up front. So Dominic, if you're listening, or anyone else is listening, because there were a lot of responses to that study, people were very interested. Yes, it matters where food is, and if it's the first thing you see, then you will buy more of it. Keep that in mind. If the first thing you see is bubble gum, you might be buying way more bubble gum than you need.
Kilograms of bubble gum.
Close your eyes until you see the fruit and vegetable, because it has a huge impact on mortality.
The two supermarkets I tend to go to most happen to do that. And I'm saying happen to, but maybe there's some logic here in Germany. There's a reason they do that. I don't know. But the concrete tip for all of you out there, if you're able to choose your supermarket, just know that by going to the one that has them closer to the front, maybe more visual, you can see them, you're going to buy more fruit compared to the other things you're going to buy there. Yeah. And fruit and vegetables happen to just be better for you. I'm just going to go out and say that. I know that that's not rigorous science, but yeah. Last thing, very quickly here, for any of you interested, I also talked about this in a TikTok video that will be on our channel, DW Science, by the time you hear this. But I'll just say it here as well, that there was a recent statement made by the U.S. Health Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and like a lot of his longer speeches, there was because of the way he presents information, where the commas are more like periods, these are separate thoughts that are kind of backed onto each other. He caused some confusion because he was talking about overweight and obesity rates in the United States, which are 74%. And then he goes on to talk about how a similar number of people are excluded from the military. And he's talking here about kids.
About the same number, 74% of American kids cannot qualify for military service. We're seeing a crisis in mental health that is linked in some way to our foods. We're seeing crazy.
Okay, so you got the 74% of kids who are disqualified from the military, and there's a mental health crisis that's linked to food.
Yeah.
But the 74%.
Let me just, it's confusing, and people are confused about this. The people who were exposed or who listened to clips or parts of the speech. According to the Pentagon, 77% of young Americans or people who would be qualified for service in the military are not able to do so for a variety of reasons. And the number one reason for being excluded or disqualified from military service is connected to food. It's because of obesity. That's the most common, or obesity or being overweight. That's the most common reason to be disallowed. Or rejected from the military. Number two, drug and alcohol abuse. Now, he starts then kind of connecting it to mental health, which he says is somehow connected to food. And that's the part that I want to make clear here, or dispute, or flat out reject.
That mental health, or that the mental health crisis in the United States that he talked about there is not a result of food.
Yeah, I guess the most conservative or cautious way to say it is that there isn't enough evidence out there to say that that is a primary cause of a very real mental health crisis in young people. I'm talking about 12 to 17-year-olds here specifically, but there, at least according to the most recent research from about half a year ago, there are three primary factors for a dramatic rise in the number of people who say that they are feeling hopeless or are sad, or that have been clinically defined as being depressed, or describe themselves as being depressed. And those three reasons are extreme digital exposure, which is a fancy way of talking or saying social media and smartphones. Number two is social isolation or loneliness. That's also a big part of why young people are suffering mental health issues at a far higher rate than generations past. The third is school and or academic pressure. Those are the top three. Nowhere in there do you see any connection at all to food. Now, some of our well-read or well-listened fans out there are aware of a really interesting area of research right now. This is the connection between your gut microbiome and your
mental health. Psychological health. But I'm just going to, for the sake of time and clarity, and to do that right when we do it, for now, all I'm going to say is that the evidence is not there right now to suggest that that's why. A lot of that research is still ongoing as well. It's still being conducted.
Yeah, and completely fascinating. The idea that it's possible that your mental state is part of it, is directly affected by what you're eating or not eating. That is a very fascinating question. Great question. But what we know about young people suffering depression at rates that are double what they were roughly 15 years ago, that has other factors. Again, I'm just going to repeat them so that you can repeat them if somebody brings this up. This is extreme digital exposure, social isolation, loneliness, and the pressure from school or any sort of academic pressure.
All right. Let me just really quick mention the titles of the studies that I talked about. The mood disruption and change of the clocks. Social media analysis reflects the negative sentiments experienced at both time changes, with somewhat more depressive impact in early fall. And the supermarket one, impact of supermarket fruit and vegetable placement on store sales, customer purchasing, and diet.
Last one for me here is the data I just referenced about young people in the U.S. You can find it yourself. It's the Youth Mental Health Crisis in the United States, Epidemiology, Contributors, and Potential Solutions. If you have any questions about anything we have just talked about or didn't talk about, that's a more interesting one. What didn't we talk about that you want to say something to us about? That opens up, I think, infinite possibilities. Please use them. su@dw.com.
You've got someone in front of you talking to you. You have the ability to judge, is that person smart or is that person not so smart?
Well, and are you good at it? Are you good?
Who is able to judge whether the person speaking to them is smart or not.
Science Unscripted.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Christoph Heine. I'm a personality researcher at the University of Witten-Herdecke, and I'm doing a lot of individual differences research. So what differentiates people from each other? And we recently published an interesting paper on whether some people are better at judging others' intelligence and other people's are worse than that.
Let's hear it, Christoph. Are some people better at judging other people's intelligence than other people are?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, the evidence is pretty clear on that. So we found substantial, we call it individual differences. So that indeed the association, it's an association, right? There's the actual intelligence of the person we're trying to estimate and our estimates. And this association is a lot stronger for some people than for others. So yeah, some people are better than others.
And how did you set up your experiment? How did you tell the difference between whether people could tell if the person in front of them is dumb or smart?
Yeah, I mean, dumb or smart is always hard, but yeah. What we did is firsthand we had a lot of videotapes from people who also did an intelligence test. So we had videotaped them and know how good they were at these intelligence tasks, and we cut videos together to approximately 1 minute from 50 people.
One thing I have to ask here is the people who were above average intelligence or below or somewhere in the middle, were they all saying the same thing in that video, or were they freestyling and saying whatever they wanted?
Yeah, so it was pretty standardized. They had all the same task. They were all answering the same questions. So they were like reading a weather report, and they were asked to explain what the word symmetry means. And as all people in the videos answered this question, they were easily comparable, I'd say.
I think what most of our listeners would want to know at this point is what makes a person good at judging intelligence or bad at judging intelligence. And frankly, a lot of people who are listening right now might be worried that they're actually worse than they thought. We all like to think we're good at judging intelligence. How would we know, or the better way of phrasing that, what is the most important factor according to your data about the viewers, the people watching? What changes whether they can do that well or not do it well?
Yeah, I mean, the most important factors, I'd say, are hard to change because that's abilities. So when you're intelligent by yourself and you can't really easily change your intelligence, that makes you a good judge. Or when you're very good at perceiving emotions in other people's faces, you're also better at judging intelligence. But these are abilities, and you may train them, but general intelligence is very hard to train. So yeah, it's pretty much about dispositions, I'd say.
So just to be clear here, Christoph, if I'm going to be good at judging whether other people are intelligent or not, then I have to myself be intelligent. That's the most important factor?
Yeah, I'd say that's one of the three most important factors. Well-being might be an outcome, so yeah, having the best abilities is, I'd say, really good for you. But in fact, it also only explained a small amount of variance in these. That's pretty technical. It only explained a small part of judging other people. And there's a lot of variance in judging others that we could not explain. So it's the one factor we know that is relevant, but there may be a lot of other relevant factors we haven't observed yet, we can't measure yet.
How did you get interested in this topic? Of all the different avenues you could have gone through in psychological research, why did you end up focusing on on how people judge the intelligence of other people?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, you read a lot of paper when you have to do your work, and there's person perception is a very interesting thing. I think that's relevant throughout our whole life. We generally meet up with new people every day, and we're trying to see them correctly in the best way we can. And I think it helps us a lot when we are able to tell how people generally are.
Christoph, are Gabe and I intelligent based on what you've heard, based on what you know?
Or wait, who's more intelligent?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. Wow. I can't tell. I just had you on the earphones, and I think the most important cues are also visible in the behavior of the people. Who is more intelligent of you? Oh, I don't know. I try. I will dodge that question if I can. Yeah.
That's a very intelligent answer, Christoph.
That was Christoph Heine speaking to us from the German city of Witten. And if you don't know, that's in the Ruhrpott of Germany. And there's a really, really good rap group from there called Witten Untouchable.
Oh, really?
I just want you guys to know that. I love them. Lachmann 1, for instance, is one of the rappers in that group.
Okay.
Witten Untouchable. Check them out.
Okay. Well, here's what I'm going to add on the end here, because after we talked to him, he sent me an email because he was concerned that there was one point in particular that he had not expressed clearly enough. He said, I think I may have given the impression that the ability to judge others is not changeable, which was not my intention. That likely came from focusing too much on the correlates we identified. I do think it's changeable to some extent. I just didn't communicate that. And then the interesting part is he linked me to some very recent research from the University of Münster here in Germany in connection with other universities. Long story short, there's an app where I clicked into it. I'm not going to recommend it to any of you because it's in German. You watch videos of people, or videos or pictures of people, and then you have questions that you're supposed to judge them on. And I'm just going to read 3 of them here because I do think they're interesting. One, there's a picture of a woman, a German-looking woman. She's smiling. She has like a business jacket off, and it says, "Does Clara," that's the name they've given her, "does she sing in the shower?" And based on this one photo, it looks like a professional photo you'd see on LinkedIn. Does she do it? You've got another one showing a guy, and it says, does Kwang, I think his name is, does he have basically his credit card number memorized? Look at this picture of him. Is he the type of guy who would have memorized his credit card number? And the last one says, Jochen's this kind of wild-looking old guy, longer hair. You know, like you're at a concert and suddenly this cool older person shows up.
Yeah.
That's him. So Jochen is there, and it says, is this the kind of guy effectively who swears while he's driving his car? Now, it seems irrelevant, but what's interesting about the research is you make these judgments, and apparently over time you get better at them.
Huh.
Now, judging things like these are sort of like,
it's the stereotypes. I mean, the way that we go through our daily lives, the better we get at stereotyping. It means we don't have to waste so much time and energy on making these little judgments all the time.
Right.
We have them all set,
right, and
ready to go.
And what Chris is saying is based on findings connected to that, it does seem that people can improve their ability to judge others, and hence the ability to judge intelligence. Why wouldn't that be a part of it? So that's the message for all of you. If you think after talking or hearing from Chris that you're like, shucks, I might not be good at knowing whether other people are smart or not. Yeah. You can train it.
You'll get better with time. And also the question stands, are Conor and I smart?
Yeah.
Who's smarter?
No, well, go for it. If you want to go there, send us a message and we'll deal with it. And I really mean deal with the implications next week. su@dw.com.
Science Unscripted.
DW, made for minds.